Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jespi and today we are back with another Sims 4 speed build. A couple of weeks ago I posted a video where I recreated Grandpa's farm from Stardew Valley in The Sims 4 and I want to recreate every building from Stardew Valley in The Sims 4. So today we're going to be working on Harvey's Clinic / Pierre's General Store in one build. And it's a big build, so I'm just going to get right into it. Okay, so starting out here, I just put the bases down for both of the buildings. I struggled a lot with making the outsides of these buildings, not as much with the interior, but still a little bit, because if any of you guys saw my first Sims 4 speed build, you would know that I am a Sims 4 noob. I only started playing this year in May, so I don't know a lot about what you can do and what's available, and all of my builds right now are purely base game. I don't have access to any packs. I'm not doing this out of the kindness of my heart, but more so the brokenness of my wallet, but I utilized a lot of little tricks that I learned from YouTube videos, like putting roofs on half walls, which you'll see in a little bit, and I had a lot of issues with this, but I've also just been working a lot on getting used to how things behave, like roofing, how to make buildings look the way that you want them to. Like if you see here for this little bump out, I knew that I had to make like a little room and that I could put a roof through it, but that's not something that I would have known probably a couple months ago, so it made it a lot easier to be able to make the roof on Harvey's Clinic, but I still definitely struggled a lot. The tops of both of the buildings are completely flat, but there's no way to do a flat roof in The Sims 4 that has like a normal roof texture with like shingles and everything. So I just kind of had to take the roof and like make it completely flat, and it only goes down so far. There's still like a little like tip on the end, but it looks pretty good. But anyway, here I am working on the floor plan. I just said that I struggled more with the outside than I did with the inside. However, the entire floor plan that I've made right here, I actually completely demolish and none of it stays because I actually end up shrinking the entire building. You'll see in a little bit here. At this point in time, I was struggling a little bit with the floor plan, so it's just a common theme in my Sims 4 speed builds, I guess, that since I'm so new, I'm extremely indecisive and I change my mind all of the time. But when working on the floor plans of these buildings, it is a little bit difficult because in Stardew Valley, the floor plans don't really make sense for the structure of the building. Like the buildings will just be like a plain square, but then the interiors will have all of these like rooms that don't really connect in a way that makes sense for it to be inside of a square. So you will see that I change a few things up and take some creative liberties to make it work in The Sims 4 and be playable as like an actual residence where people live. One of the things that I did in my Grandpa's farm speed build was I added a bathroom because in Stardew Valley there are no bathrooms, so you'll see me. Actually, you won't see me adding bathrooms in these because I cut those out of the speed build because it was way too long with them in it, but I did add bathrooms. I also omitted a couple of things that didn't really make sense with the way that the floor plan was going to work out. Like in Pierre's General Store, he has that chapel with like a shrine to Yoba, and I omitted that because I didn't really know if I would have the space, and I also didn't really know if I would have the items since I'm just playing with the base game. But yeah, I just went ahead and shrunk the buildings down because one of the things that I'm still struggling with as well is learning how big Sims builds actually are. When I place down the buildings, I really don't feel like it looks that big, but then when I kind of see the way that the furniture looks inside and how small it is in comparison to like the huge building, I realized that I like completely overshot how big it needs to be. Whenever I'm watching speed builds from other simmers, I do this in my mind too. I'm like, that is such a small house, but then the sheer amount of things that they're able to fit in the build says something otherwise. Like it's clearly not a small house. I just am really bad at gauging how big a build needs to be and how big is too big. But yeah, once I got the building all shrunk and pushed back to where I needed it to be, I started adding some of the exterior details like these columns. I learned very quickly that the columns do not go all the way up onto the roofs and that they stop at the top of the wall. But then I also kind of learned that if you draw a wall on like the roof, you can make the column go up a little bit higher. I didn't end up doing that because once I shrink the third floor to be half walls, that trick no longer really works. But I just placed all of the columns, got all of the siding on, and then placed some doors and windows. And even though the colors aren't like an exact match because I can only do so much with the base game and I don't have that many options, I think that it looks pretty decent in terms of colors. And one thing that I really have been enjoying about this challenge of like recreating stuff is that it's really encouraging me to kind of like be creative and come up with like new ways to do things that maybe you wouldn't do if you have access to so many packs and you have access to everything just normally. And I'm starting to get really familiar with the items that are available in the base game, both in the base game normal items and base game debug. So I'm getting kind of proud of myself, and I do get a little bit faster with each build. This build took me a really long time, but then I did another speed build and it took me like all day, but I did complete it in one day and only 2 recordings. This one has like 7 recordings and I filmed it over like 2 weeks. But yeah, I'm so excited to be one of those simmers that is just like playing The Sims and I'm building and I'm like, oh yeah, no, the base game has this really cool like plant that you can use, or like this painting that looks really nice. Whenever I'm watching other simmers and they just know like exactly what items come in every single pack, I'm always like, how do you know that? But now I'm kind of feeling like I might be like that, at least with the base game. And when I do eventually get access to packs, I want to only do like one at a time and really get familiar with it so that I know what's included, really just enjoying it and getting my money's worth, doing the gameplay, doing builds. But yeah, here's where I start to make the roofs be little half wall roofs. And I did have to do this trick in my grandpa's farm speed build from a couple weeks ago, where you have to build rooms up to the height that you need the roof and then kind of like drag it over. You need to like disconnect it from the floating room and then drag it over till it's the proper height on that half wall. And it's really honestly kind of convoluted. And then there's this like weird seam there too that I'm not crazy about, but I mean, it looks fine and no one's really gonna be like staring at that. If they make a base game update where you can just put roofs on half wall rooms, I will honestly cry, because the amount of grief that these half wall roofs have given me is already so crazy, and I have not been playing The Sims for very long at all. So with this build in particular, I got them all placed. It took me probably close to like an hour, maybe actually even 2. I really don't know. I had to watch tutorials and then I had to actually do it and get it perfect, and I still wasn't 100% sure if I was happy with like the rest of the building, so I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to move anything else, change the height of the half wall again. So it was honestly a struggle. But anyway, on the front of Harvey's clinic there is a red cross. Actually, I don't know if there still is, because I remember there being patch notes for the 1.6 update, and somebody had pointed out that one of the updates in the patch notes said that he changed something that was in violation of the Geneva Convention, and everyone was like, what the heck? But it's just because he couldn't put the red cross on the building. So I think that it might not be there anymore, but the reference photos that I was following had it, but there wasn't anything like that in The Sims 4 that I could do. So I thought that I would like try to be creative and use these little arrow decals to try to make my own cross. They didn't have the color red, so I was doing it in blue, but I ended up deleting the whole thing because then when I was like digging through other signs later on, I found this little one that looked like it would be for a doctor's office with like the little heart and the little like. But the exteriors are pretty much done now, aside from when I landscape them later on. But anyway, I go back into the buildings to change the floor plan because they did not make sense, especially after I shrunk down the buildings. And when I went into the buildings to remove the walls so that I could remap out a floor plan, it completely just deletes the roofs that are just floating there, the half wall roofs. These roofs, mind you, are on the 3rd floor, and I was deleting walls from the 1st floor. Make it make sense. I don't really know why. And the only fix that I could find, this was just through myself because I couldn't find anything on Google, was to just detach the roofs, build everything, and then I would just reattach the roofs after I finished the entire interior floor plan because I couldn't figure anything else out. I saved my game and quit and then came back. I don't know if you noticed the little jump in the lighting when I started working on the interior of Harvey's clinic, but after I noticed that it was deleting my roofs, I pretty much rage quit, and then I came back like several days later to finish the build because I was just so frustrated. But yeah, with Harvey's clinic, it was relatively easy to make the floor plan because the floor plan in Stardew Valley actually translates very well to just having a rectangular house. Harvey actually has a staircase that leads up to his bedroom in the game, whereas a lot of the other characters, like at Pierre's, their bedrooms are on the same floor or like plane as the store, but in The Sims, I made it on the second story, so I had to kind of like add my own stairs. But for Harvey's, there are actually stairs in the game that lead you up to his bedroom, so it ended up working out really well. After I got the main floor plan laid out, I started working on like the waiting room area, and the waiting room area is so fun. The rest of the clinic is very sterile, like white floors, white walls, but the waiting room area has like the teal seats, and then I put this teal wall on, and it's quite a lot. It's a very bold wall, but I really like it because I think that it like adds character and it just makes it feel more accurate to the game. Also, I apologize so much in advance because I jump around a lot. I oftentimes don't work on an entire room until completion, because then when I'm working on other items, I come back after I find something. I'm like, oh, that would work really, really well in the waiting room, and then I bring it over. So I'm gonna be jumping around a lot, and the first jump you can see here is that I start working on like the little patient area, but I do come back to the waiting room. There's like still a few things that I need to add, but this patient area with all of the beds is an example of how the Stardew Valley layout messes with my brain, because you'll see that I placed down these 3 beds, and in the game the 3 beds are all just facing one direction because you can't rotate beds in Stardew Valley. So the bed that's at the bottom, I just have the footboard against the wall, but in real life you would have the headboard against the wall more than likely. So I do change it around eventually, but I look at the references while I'm making these builds, so sometimes it like sways me. But in the game there's also these dividers between all of the beds, and there wasn't really anything like that I could find in the base game. So I looked at the dividers that they had and I didn't like them, so I found these curtains that matched the color scheme perfectly, and I basically just used those as the room dividers. I had to draw a wall and then place the curtains on the wall and then delete the wall to get them where I wanted them. But honestly, like, I'm impressed with my creativity, because who is she? Like, how did I come up with that? I'm like so new and everything. But here I am jumping back to the waiting room to add a little computer in the corner like there is in the actual game. I thought that I could just add a computer on top of any surface, but turns out you can only add them on top of desks, which is really annoying, to be honest. I had to look up a tutorial because none of the desks matched the space. They were all like too long, and they didn't match the aesthetic of what I was going for either, because I was trying to like match them to the game as best as possible. So the tutorial just said to place the computer on a desk and then size down the desk as small as you can go, and then if you click the desk and move that, it will move the computer and you can alt place it on top of any surface. So at first I just tried putting it on top of this sort of like console table looking thing, but you could see the desk underneath. So I tried covering it with books and I hated it. And then I moved to this like counter again, and that's like more accurate to what it looks like it's on in the game. But there was like this weird lighting glitch with the counter, since there's like a desk inside the counter and it like messes up with the game. So I do end up keeping the counter there, even with the weird lighting glitch, but it is a little frustrating for sure. And then there's like this little office area in the back. I'm assuming it's like Harvey's office, and Maru also works at the clinic, so there's like 2 little like areas to sit. I figured it would be cute if like Harvey and Maru had like a little break back there together. But yeah, there's just a desk, and then there's the little counters again. I put a sink in there and a hand wash sign. Once I learned about the signs, I started utilizing them everywhere. But yeah, pretty much most of the downstairs is very simple. Like, there's not a ton going on, but there's not a ton going on in Stardew Valley either. Like, a lot of the houses are very simply decorated, which is kind of nice, because then when I'm decorating in The Sims, I don't feel like I need to go crazy overboard with like decor and everything, but sometimes it just feels like so empty. So I try to like fill up space with stuff, but then I don't want to be too repetitive either, because there's only so much that's available in The Sims 4. But one of the beautiful things about Stardew Valley is that the furniture that everybody in the entire valley has access to is very limited. So everyone has like the same bed, they have the same rugs, they have the same everything. So if I am reusing the same plants, the same beds, the same rugs, who cares? I'm reusing the same kitchen cabinets. Everyone has the same cabinets. They were all built by Robin, and she only knows how to do one thing. I'm so sorry for that unnecessary shade to Robin. She does not deserve that. I didn't mean it as like shade, but just saying that all of the things are made by the same woman, so they're gonna have like a little signature look. So I used the same kitchen cabinets that I probably used in Grandpa's farm, in both Harvey's and Pierre's. I probably use them in the speed build I'm posting next week as well. Who knows? I don't know. I don't care. Also, on the low, like, a lot of the base game items do kind of give like Stardew vibes. They're not too far off from the decor and like the design of the items that are from Stardew. So this is kind of like a good base game challenge because I think that the style of a lot of the base game items lends itself very well to the style of furniture in Stardew Valley. But I struggled a lot with the layout of Harvey's apartment because the way that his apartment is laid out in the game is like horizontal, but that's not really the way that things look in my actual Sims game. The room was more vertical, so I split the apartment in half so that like the back would have the bedroom and a bathroom and the front would be more like the living room kitchen area. But initially I had put the desk in the living room and it just kind of like threw me off because then it kind of made the whole layout a little bit weird. So I moved that over into the bedroom and that helped a lot with figuring out where to place the couches and the dining table. And I say that it helped a lot, but I still struggled quite a bit. I think that I even like cut out a couple of parts because I was so indecisive and I was moving stuff around so much. This speed build was like close to an hour on 10 times speed after I was done filming everything and putting the footage in, so I did have to cut out some things to get it down. But in the end I made the kitchen just be like the back wall and he got like the basics with at least one counter for him to be able to cook on. I was originally planning on giving him 2 couches. I don't really know why. That might be the way that it is in the game. I don't really know because I don't have a picture up right now, but one couch was the only thing that would fit. And then I had like a little armchair and I put the living room towards like the very front in that little nook next to the stairs. And then I just gave him the little dining room in between the couch and like the kitchen. And I think that that layout works really, really well. I also changed the layout of his bedroom so many times. I like changed it and would be happy with it. And then I would come back later and be like, no, I don't really think that makes sense. So then I moved the bed again and I moved the dresser and I moved the desk and I move everything around because even though all of the rooms in Stardew Valley aren't always like the most well decorated or cutest rooms ever, and a lot of the base game furniture and items are not the cutest things ever either, I still wanted the builds to be like somewhat decent and make sense. So I finally found a layout that I liked and stuck with it, and I am happy with the way that things turned out. But I also did give him these little like airplane models on a shelf because Harvey loves airplanes. And then he also does have a bathroom, but I cut out that part of the speed build. But I'll pop back into the game after the speed build is over and give you a tour of everything. I did playtest these builds just to make sure that everything worked, especially since I was using debug items and I was also using move objects to alt place things. So I just wanted to make sure that things worked in case any of you guys download this off of the gallery. I did have to change quite a few things in Pierre's store, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But when we get in there, I'll also just show you the bathrooms or just little parts of the builds that I didn't show you. And then here we are moving over to Pierre's general store. Like I said, I did omit a couple of things. One of the things being the little chapel for Yoba. The other thing being the tea room. I did not include that because I would have had to make like a little bump out in the back. And as you can see here, the building is pushed all the way up to the back of the lot. And I really didn't want to have to like bring it forward just to have like a little like sunroom greenhouse area in the back. So I omitted it. And in the end, I ended up just giving Caroline a gardening section on the balcony. So once we go upstairs, you'll see that. But with the floor plan in here, I just sort of divided it in half. The front half of the downstairs being the general store and the other half being the living room and kitchen area for them. I really struggled with the living room and kitchen with this because their living room area isn't really actually a living room. Caroline hosts like little workout sessions for all of the ladies and Harvey. I don't know what they're doing, like aerobics or something. And so she just kind of has like a big mat on the ground and like a fireplace and maybe like 1 or 2 stools and some plants, but there's no couches, there's no anything. So I do end up putting some couches just because, like, I don't know, I wanted to give them some places to sit, but I did try to keep the main general area be very open, and I left the rug, aka like the workout mat, completely untouched so that they can work out on their little mat if they want to. And then with the kitchen, you can see I put this like outdoor table with this like coral pink tablecloth on it, which is like super ugly, but in the game they have like a little corally orangey tablecloth on their kitchen table. So I thought that that was like the best match, but I just really hated it, especially because realized like the legs of the table were metal and it just looked really, really bad. So in the end, I changed it to like a plain wooden table, and I think that that looks better, but I am really sad that there aren't more like tablecloth kitchen table options. There's only like a couple, and they're really small round tables, and I wanted it to be a long table so that it matched the Stardew Valley version better. But moving on to the upstairs, there's 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. One of them is just sort of like a shared hall bathroom, but it's closer to Abigail's bedroom, and then the other one is an ensuite to the primary bedroom. It was kind of hard getting wallpaper and like flooring matches for these rooms because they don't just have like plain wallpaper or plain floorings. Caroline and Harvey have like a purple carpet, and there wasn't a purple carpet option. There were like dark blues, but it didn't really match. And when I sized up rugs, they were way too big, so I ended up just giving them wood floors with a purple rug instead. And for Abigail's bedroom, this coloring of the wallpaper is like way too light for what it actually is. Her room is a lot deeper of a blue than this, but it's not just like a plain dark blue. So I didn't want to just give her like a plain dark blue. I wanted to give her like a little bit of ombre because that's kind of what she has. And she also has like aquatic decals on the wall, like it's like a wallpaper or something. But unfortunately, there wasn't really anything like that in the game, so I settled for this. I think that it turned out nice in the end, but I just kind of gave her like a purpley theme because she has purple hair, so I thought that that would be nice. In her bedroom in the game, she has a little TV. That's actually where you play Journey of the Prairie King with her for one of her hard events. She also has a computer and her bed, and other than that, like not really a lot of things, maybe a couple plants here and there. So I did add a bookcase, but I think that's like really the only thing I added that like wasn't originally part of her room. And then Pierre and Caroline's room has even less in it. They had like a black armchair and a table with a couple of like green chairs. So their room is also pretty sparse, to be honest. I tried to add some things to fill up more space, like a second armchair, a couple nightstands, bookshelf, whatever. As you can see, I did change the armchairs to be purple because I thought that the contrast of the black was just like too stark because the rest of the room is very like brown and purple. So I did not like the black and I did change it. Little creative liberty. But yeah, I mean, their room's pretty boring. The color scheme is not great, but their color scheme is accurate to the game. But moving on, you might have been wondering when we came up here and I made the floor plan, why the heck is this hallway so big? Well, I wanted to give them a sort of living room that had a TV and a place for them to chill, since the downstairs living room does not have that. So I figured that since there is the balcony door and I want everybody in the house to be able to go out and access the balcony, not just like Caroline, I figured having like a little sort of living room area that's like a communal space for the entire family would be nice. So this is another area that I end up changing the layout of a bunch of times, but I just put like a couch and a couple of chairs, and later on I'll put a TV and everything so that it is more of a place for them to sit and hang out as a family. But then working on the balcony, I added multiple planter boxes and then just a couple of decorative plants to make it look a little bit more full, since until you plant something in the planter boxes, they're empty. I could have just planted things myself because I'm not actually going to be playing as Caroline, so like upgrading her gardening skill is not going to be something that I'm doing. But I don't know, in case anyone else downloads this and plays in it, then you have empty planter boxes to plant things in. But then yes, here I am changing the layout once again. I opted to just go with one couch and one armchair. There are only 3 people in the household. There are going to be 4 people because Harvey is going to be a part of the household, since I need to make Harvey, Pierre, Caroline, and Abigail all one household for them to be able to live in this townhouse sort of establishment. However, the only people living in the Pierre's General Store half of the building are Pierre, Caroline, and Abigail, so they only need 3 chairs. And I sort of figured that like Pierre and Caroline would sit on the couch and Abigail would maybe join sometimes on the chair, but probably not. I don't think that Abigail is really the kind of girl that just wants to watch TV and like spend a bunch of time with her parents, but maybe I'm wrong about that. She has a place to sit. She's welcome to come and join whenever she wants to, but she doesn't have to because she has her own TV in her own bedroom, like the queen that she is. But yeah, at this point, I had been working on this speed build for so long, over multiple days, and I was dreading working on the downstairs store section of the build. I had messed around a little bit before I started this speed build just to make sure that some of the stuff that I wanted to do was even possible. And so I sort of like figured out like, oh, how would I make a store in the base game? And I concluded that I was going to make these half wall store shelves. And and then place things on them from debug. And if any of you guys watched my last Sims 4 speed build, you would know that I'm kind of like the queen of hand placing debug items, but you would also know that it takes a hell of a long time. So I really did not want to have to go digging through debug just to find a bunch of items to put on shelves, raise them up to the proper height, size them up, size them down, and I just knew that it was going to take a really, really long time. So I saved it for the last thing that I did because I figured that if it was the last thing that I had to do, that I would have the momentum from like, oh, like it's the home stretch. And if it was one of the first things I did, I might get discouraged and then not even finish the rest of the build. So you can see that I'm just like taking out a bunch of items from debug that you like might see at a general store. With this grocery store, you're going to have to like suspend your disbelief a little bit because some of the items look like really whack, to be honest, and they don't really make sense. Like the organization of it doesn't make sense because like why are some of these items next to each other? Why is there not like the grocery section and then like the chemicals and cleaning section and then the fertilizer and seeds section? I don't know, to be honest. I really wasn't like trying to make it make sense. I was just trying to fill the shelves as quickly as I freaking could because this was taking a really long time and I just wanted to be done with it. So like here we have flour, sugar, pasta, fertilizer, some random jar that kind of looks like an olive oil jar, and then like some sort of bag at the bottom. Literally like what? Why would any of this stuff make sense together? It really doesn't. I just wanted all the shelves to be full and for them to all have something on them. Now, one of the really, really sad things is that when I was playtesting this, and I didn't know this, I wouldn't even know to think about this when choosing items from debug, but when I was playtesting in this build in particular, after just like a day of playing, a lot of the stuff on the shelves were spoiled and rotting and had all of like the little green fog coming off of them. So I had to go back in, delete all of the items that ended up rotting and replacing them with other items. I ended up using bags of coffee, spray bottles, little aerosol cans, little like random like cleaning supplies, I guess. These are things that I missed on my first run around trying to find items in debug, so I'm glad that I found them because I think that like the coffee bags look pretty good and look very grocery store-esque. But some of the things that were rotting, I was literally like, why is this rotting? All of this produce that you see me placing, which again, just suspend your disbelief a little bit, some of it looks pretty funky. Why the heck are all of the lemons and grapes and cherries just standing upright like that? Don't ask me, it's The Sims 4, I don't know. But all of this produce, none of it was rotting. Literally all of it was fine. The things that were rotting were like cans of soda, cans of juice, random empty jars. Excuse me, I didn't think a can of water would spoil and go bad. I also thought that debug items were like non-interactable, like you couldn't interact with debug items, so I figured these would all be fine and they're just kind of for show. But I guess you can interact with them because when one of the cans of water was spoiled, I had my sim go and like grab it and she like put it in the dishwasher to clean it up. So she was able to take it, which I mean, fair enough. That's just another little thing I'm learning about the game, I guess. I was actually pleasantly surprised because a fair amount of items were actually able to just like slot to the shelves, which was quite nice. And whenever an item would slot to the shelf, I would use it more because that's obviously less work for me. With a lot of these items, I have to like raise them up and then alt place them. And it's honestly just really time consuming and it can be like pretty frustrating sometimes. So whenever I found an item that slotted, like the empty jars that ended up spoiling, I did use them in a couple of places just to kind of fill up space. But one of the oversights that I had that I didn't even like consider till afterwards is like, this is Pierre's general store, and one of the things that he sells in Stardew Valley is seeds. And I had fertilizer, but I did not put any seeds on the shelf. But when I ended up having to go through and delete all of these like cans and stuff, I did replace them with seeds. And I scrolled through debug a lot to try to find them until I remembered, oh no, these are just in the normal like build buy menu. I just have to go buy them basically and place them in the game. So when I pop back into the game to show you the build, you'll see them. I kind of like sized them up so that they're like big bags of seeds, but he does indeed sell seeds now. Also, just like little side note, imagine walking into a grocery store and they just have like a shelf full of fish that's just like sitting on the shelf. Like, why the heck are the salmon just like plopped there on top of the shelf? Some of the fish did slot and some of them do not. So once I realized that fish had the ability to slot, I started to look for more fish that do slot. So like for instance, one of the fish that I ended up using on this like second row was a piranha, and like Pierre would sell piranha because like what the heck, who does that? Pierre, I guess. But like just the fact that like right on the shelf below all of these fish is like just pasta and bread, and like the fish juices are probably leaking onto the bread. That is so gross. But disbelief has been suspended. I don't see any juices spilling, so it's not happening. This is all fine. And I was shocked to find out that the fish were not one of the things that were rotting either, because after you catch fish, if you don't like do anything with them, they do go bad. But I like let 5 days go by just to see if anything would spoil, and nothing did, so I think we're in the clear. But yeah, one of the little final touches of the shop was just adding these fridges in the back here, because he does have like a couple refrigerators for like refrigerated items in Stardew Valley. But yeah, other than like a couple little final touches and then replacing the roofs, that's pretty much like the end of the build. I'd have to rebuild the roof over Pierre's store because for some reason it got deleted. I don't know how, because I removed it from the building like the other two, and Harvey's didn't get deleted but Pierre's did, so I had to redo that. But then I did some of the landscaping. I wanted this to sort of look like Pelican Town in general, like the town center, the town square, if you will. And so I just sort of like made this stone pathway, and in Stardew Valley the town center has like this little circle in the middle that's like red, and I tried to make that with terrain paint, but I honestly really hated the way that it was looking because for some reason like the edges were not properly round. It was a little pixelated, and like I couldn't get them to look smooth, so I just didn't want it to look super jagged. I tried making like a round room, but it wasn't quite like a circle. It was like straight edges with like rounded corners, and so I ended up just getting rid of it entirely, which is a little sad because it's kind of iconic, but I really just couldn't think of a way to do it. So in the end I ended up just having the stone pathway, and then I placed some debug lighting, and then I also did a little bit of landscaping, but I also cut that out from the speed build because the speed build was getting a little bit long and I was really indecisive about the landscaping. I still don't even really like it that much because it's honestly not anything to write home about. I just kind of wanted to fill up those like little green sections on either side of the building, but I don't really know if it like is good. But yeah, without further ado, I think I'm gonna pop back into the game and give you a little tour of both Harvey's clinic and Pierre's general store. So here we are on the lot. As you can see here, we have the building. I do have like a little bit of landscaping. Again, don't really know if it's actually any good. I have like a tree and like some flowers around the tree, some flowers and bushes. I think that it's good enough, but we'll start with Harvey's because that's where we started in the speed build. One of the things that I changed the absolute most during my time building this was all of the artwork. I kind of put this like apple on the wall because I kind of thought that that would be cute, like, you know, like an apple a day keeps the doctor away or whatever. And then I found this like little soap opera like doctor poster, and I thought that would be super cute as well. The final little addition was this little like girl on a rocket, which if you know anything about Maru, you would know why this is significant. So I thought that that was really cute, and I think that when I do my little like Simdu Valley playthrough, I want to try to get like Maru and Harvey to marry each other. I don't know, I think that would be so cute. I put this desk with a computer in here, figuring that this would be a computer that they could use that's like easily accessible from the patient area, and it was also just something to fill this space. But then to the right we have the little patient area. I did put this little measurement decal on the wall. I thought that was a little cute touch. And then we just have the office here. I did turn everything to be white. I think in the speed build some of the stuff was like brown, but I just thought that I would stick with like the sterile vibes and go a little offbeat of the Stardew Valley version because I just thought that this fit a little bit better. We have Harvey's apartment. I did end up adding little counters over here because he needed a usable counter, and I did give him a microwave and a coffee machine, and then I think that he didn't have any counters that he could cook on. He could always actually cook on one of like these counters down here, probably, realistically, gameplay wise. Oh, let me get rid of the grid actually. In here you enter into this little hallway where there's a mirror and it leads into the bedroom, and then we have his bathroom. It's pretty simple. It literally just has a toilet, sink, mirror, shower, towel, robe, but that's it for Harvey's. So if we come over here to Pierre's, you'll be able to see that I did add some more produce. These bananas are just absolutely so funky. Like some of this stuff is cracking me up. The grapes and the bananas are the funniest to me, I think, because why are they like that? More stuff over here. These are like little coffee bags. And here we have the seeds, because if he's gonna sell one thing, it's gonna be a damn seed. I did size up the bags. They're originally this size. Then of course we just have like the little desk and there's a little section here to walk inside, living room, and the kitchen. I did add some upper cabinets and a little coffee machine, but other than that, I think this is pretty much the same. Going up the staircase, I put this little laundry basket outside of Abigail's bedroom because I thought that would be a cute detail. Like, Caroline did the laundry for Abigail, but she doesn't want to intrude on Abigail's personal space, so she just like left it outside of the bedroom, and Abigail has yet to put it away. But in Abigail's bedroom, I did give her a bunch of like little random rocks and such. This one in particular is quartz, I'm pretty sure. When you give Abigail a quartz in Stardew Valley, she says like, I love the taste of this or something. Like, she freaking eats them. Another little character arc of Abigail is that she's like really obsessed with the idea of going into the mines and fighting monsters. So when I found this sword in debug, I knew that I had to put it in her room. Originally, I thought that it was like a wall item, but when I realized that it wasn't, I was like, where am I gonna just put this like random sword laying on the floor? But I kind of like tucked it away under her bed a little bit, so it looks like she's kind of trying to hide it from her parents. Like, she doesn't want them to find a full-fledged sword in her bedroom. But coming into Pierre and Caroline's room, you already saw all of this, but I will show you their bathroom. They have a pretty nice bathroom. It's quite big, so they have some towels, they have like a double sink here, bathtub and shower. Abigail's bathroom is a little bit more like personalized to her. I did put some like dirty laundry kind of to go along with the theme. I gave her some purple towels because of course her hair is purple. Then out here, the sitting room that we saw, and I added this bonsai tree off camera. So that is the build. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post videos like this every single week. Next week, we're gonna have another Sims 4 meets Stardew Valley speed build, and it's not quite as big and exciting as this one, but it is still a super fun video. So if you subscribe, make sure you turn on notifications so that you don't miss it, because I would love to see you there. But anyway, I hope you guys have a really great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!